In the previous video, we created our own cluster, created our own database, and got the URL and tried connecting from MongoDB campus. But this time, we want to actually do it from our own application and connect from here. So it's going to be a bit different than the merge tank, because in the merge tank, we used to create our server, and then when we are on our server, we connect to the database right away. But in Next.js, it's going to be a bit different. Whenever we want something from the database, like for example, I send a request to the server, so the server is going to do something with the database. Then we connect to the database, do something like updating, getting our own data from the database, then disconnecting. So it's going to be like this flow. We connect to the database, get what we need, and then disconnect. So we can have like a folder where we're going to have this, these few helpers, you can call them. So you can call this folder either helpers or utils, okay? These are the base, common names they use for this type of folders. So let's call this db.js. And first of all, we need to install two packages that are going to help us, which is going to be MongoDB and also Mongoose. So yarn add or npm install MongoDB, and also Mongoose, both of them. And we need till it installs. Let me close that and work right here. Let me zoom in a bit. So import Mongoose from Mongoose. Okay, and we're going to create our own connection object, which is going to be empty. If we get connected to something, we're going to store the informations in this object. So we can create our own function. Let's call it export, and then async function. An async function because we need to wait for some operations to happen. That's why we use the asynchronous function. So, and then we can call this like connect. Okay, db, and then right here, first of all, want to check. So if we had any connection, we're going to store it right here. So simply we can check there. So if connection.isConnected, which is something that we're going to add later when we connect, and then simply if it does exist, then we are already connecting. But in the first time that we're going to do, connection is going to be empty. So this is not going to be, something that happens. So I'm just going to console log like already connected to the database, okay, which is not database, which is not going to happen the first time. So this is only going to happen the second time when you try to connect after connecting. So if this is happening, also want to return. We don't want to run anything more. Okay, now we're going to come to the second scenario. So we're going to go if, and then we're going to go to Mongoose, and then we're going to go to connections, to the list of connections we have, and then we're going to go to the length of it, and then see if it's more than 0. That means there is some sort of connection from Mongoose that we imported from here. So simply then we're going to go to our object connection, and then simply I'm going to add this property which is connected, and then it's going to equal Mongoose connections, the first element from the array, and then ready state, which is if it's connected, it's going to be 1. So this is, we get it, sorry for the typos. Let me make sure connection, okay, the object that we have right here, and we're going to add the property is connected, and it's going to be mongoose.connection0.readyState, which is if it's connected, it's going to be 1. So we're going to check for that. So if connection, you don't actually have to understand this fully, this is just the way how we connect. So is connected, and then we're going to see if it's equal 1, then it's already connected. So we can use our previous connection that we have. So simply console log use, you've probably seen this is like the most common way to connect to the database in Next.js. So use previous connection to the database like that, okay, and then also return, and we need to disconnect from here. So await, because it's an asynchronous function, so it's operates waiting, so await, and then we're gonna go to Mongoose and then disconnect, and right here simply we gonna connect after all of this. So we can create an object, let's call it db, and let me just see. So we're gonna go to await, and then mongoose.connect, and simply we need to add the URL that we need to connect with, which is gonna be in the env file that we added right here. So this link. So to access that easy way, so you just gotta go process.env. The name that you have in the, let me just show you, in the env, which is gonna be this one. Then go back right here and add it there. And in the second parameter, it's going to be the parameters or the options you want. So we're going to use the new URL parser, and it's going to be true. So we can connect with the new way with the URL when it comes to MongoDB. And also we want to add use unified topology, unified topology, which is gonna be true. So use unified topology. So we may have some typos, but we're gonna see. So console log new connection to the database. So this is what happens when we connect the first time database, okay? And then we just simply gonna make sure that it's connected. So we're gonna add it to the connection object. So I'm gonna go right here, and then is connected. You don't have to remember this. I don't even remember it myself, so you can just have it always with you. So whenever you need any project you need to connect to the database, you have this file. So I'm gonna go db, and then I'm gonna go to connections, which is gonna be the first one, and then I'm gonna get the ready state, which is gonna be connected. So when we connect right here, so the state in the connection is gonna be 1. Then we go back right here. If it's already exists, so we're gonna see that it's 1. We're just simply gonna use the previous connection because we are all not disconnected. So this is how it works. I think I'm zoomed in too much, so I just want to make sure that everything is clear. So this is like the function that's used to connect. So if I take this function ConnectDB, and for example I went to the pages and API and hello right here, I can import that from, and I'm gonna go up to utils and then db, and I can try and run this function in this route. So simply, if you remember, I told you about routes API. So you go to our URL, which is localhost 3000, then /API, then /hello, and everything right here is gonna run in that route, which is gonna be simply returning name John Doe, but also it's gonna connect. So it's gonna console log one of the options that we have right here, or depending on what we have. So simply, if I open the console right here when it's running, and then go back right here, and then go to /API, then hello, I don't have it, so, and then enter, you're gonna see it returns the name John Doe. But if we go back right here, okay, so we have some problems. Okay, let me just see. Okay, in handle rejection, okay, use unified, there is some typos. It's gonna be use unified topology. So let me try that again. Okay, so we get that, and we go back right here. Let me see, and as you see right here, new connection to the database. That means our first connection. But let me try and refresh again. So if we try and refresh again, we already connected, so it should be showing us already connected to the database. So let me just show you. Let me just go back. Yeah, refresh that, go back, and you see right here, already connected to the database, and you don't need to perform another connection to the database. So that's the first way to connect to the database. Now let's actually work. So this connecting is actually pretty simple. Let's create our function. So export and then async function, let's call it disconnect db, and it just simply, this is how it's gonna work. When we are in development mode, which what we are right now, we don't wanna disconnect every time. So as long as we're connected to the database, we don't need to disconnect, because that's gonna be just too much. Imagine you sending a lot of requests, while testing, so it's gonna occupy your processor a lot, and just not gonna be a good way on a good environment for you to develop in. So we only, when we are in the production mode, which is the version that is like available for everyone and hosted and all of that, then in that scenario, yes, we need to disconnect. We don't want to like keep connecting to the database at all. That's going to create a lot of traffic. But when we are in development mode, we don't need to connect and disconnect. That's the whole idea of it. So first of all, we want to go actually to connection and see if we are if we are connected. So it's connected. So when we are connected, also there's two scenarios. So we're going to go first of all to process this env dot not env, okay, variable, and then we're gonna see if it's equal to production. That means we are in production mode. Then we need to actually disconnect, so we can go await and then mongoose and then disconnect like that. And then also want to go to our connection and then is connected and make it either empty or false, whatever you want. And then else, that means we are connected. As you see, I see we're already connected, but we are in the development mode, so we don't need to actually do anything. You can just leave it like that, or just like console log not disconnecting. I prefer to not add anything, or we can actually add it just so we can test it. Not disconnecting from the database, like that. So we can actually just go back to hello, and after connecting we can actually also get disconnect and then after that we can just try it like that. So let me go back and open the console and then go back here. So let me refresh and then go back. So as you see, use previous connection because we already connected, and then not this connection from the database because we are in development mode. So you can do it this way, or you can also like remove this export from here and just simply create an object that's called DB that's going to contain both, because we're going to add few extra later. We want to JSON stringify things, so you're gonna see. So I'm not just gonna talk about it right now. So disconnect, and this is gonna be our DB, and then export by default, okay, DB, so we can export it directly from it. So if I go back to hello, I can export the DB directly as default, and then right here I can go DB dot the element or the function that I want also right here. And if you go back also here and try that again, refresh this, go back, and there's something. Okay, so db.connectDB. So let me just see what name I had for it. So we had ConnectDB, and then also disconnectDB and export. Why we have this problem? Export default DB. Go back right here. Okay, sorry. Yeah, I think it's all right. Where is the problem? So DB disconnect. Let me just try this again. Okay, it works there. Yeah, it works. So everything is fine. Use previous connection and also not disconnection from the database. We're gonna add our own, other functions right here. It's gonna be like many others, but as you see right here, now we are gonna be able to connect and disconnect. I know